about your future.
Good day, fellow meat sacks. My name is not important. In times like these, our minds tend to focus on dark things. So it seems to be as good a time as any to talk about one of Steampunk's favorite genre mashups. One of our viewers asked us if it is possible to combine steampunk with cosmic horror and the Lovecraftian, and if so, how? But before we can talk about that, we need to talk about the nature of horror itself.
Horror explores the fears that keep us awake at night. It taps into our base instincts, our reactions to weird sounds in the night, our disgust for things that creep and crawl, and our suspicion for anything we do not understand. The primary antagonists in the stories of old were often monsters that defy human understanding, but one group of creatures stands out in particular. Apart from evil spirits, they were mostly about demons and jinns, servants of the Satans of mythology. They often make things happen from the shadows, bad things usually. They would bring disease, cause wars and famines. Anything that lay outside of human control.
On the other hand, if you managed to summon one, they could bring you untold riches for the mere price of one's soul, or some other exchange like human sacrifice.
But one must not forget that these demons would be met head-on by angels and, of course, God's mercy. Even those who had consorted with evil could be redeemed as long as they accepted salvation. In the early modern era, human behavior started to become more of a source of horror. Maybe it's because the printing press allowed for a greater variety of stories, or the discovery of cultures like that of the Incas and the Aztecs, or maybe it was just good propaganda to portray one's opposition as murderers and cannibals. Although the likes of Johnny Bean did really exist.
Over the centuries, natural spirits and divine demons were replaced by vengeful ghosts, and human monsters started to take their place as the new alpha predators. However, some writers started to shift their attention from the primitive fears of human beings to more philosophical deficiencies in Western civilization.
Up to recently, a mere 300 years ago, people were content to die young. Living a long life meant extension of suffering. Those who did not experience famine during their lifetime probably lived too short to experience one. People questioned, why? Why do we need to suffer from the moment we are born until the day we die? Wise men would explore the forests, bogs, mountains, and deserts in search of the answers, only to find nothing. The answers they sought must be in places they could not reach, like the bottom of the sea or the heavens. They tried reaching the bottom of the sea, but found only death. What was left were the heavens, and assumed the answers must be up there. For thousands of years, they would lament at the sky. Some believed their questions were answered in the form of words committed to tablets, then parchment, and finally paper. For many centuries, no one questions the answers that could be found in these texts. They would argue about its meaning very often, but in general, people were content. They understood there was a reason for their suffering and could not imagine living long lives in abundance. That was just wishful thinking.
But then the unimaginable happened. Humans discovered the power of industry.
It started with their ability to create more food than ever before. Then they discovered the power of organization, investment, and technology. For the first time in their history, humanity learned about the potential of unparalleled growth.
Reason and rationality became the religions of the new age. The old texts were deemed heretical and unnecessary. There are no more angels or demons. No redemption. God is dead. God remains dead. And we killed him.
But with the abundance came unforeseen problems. No longer exposed to hunger, violence, and disease, humanity encountered a new danger to their way of life.
Boredom.
Their need for thrills drove ever-increasing demand to alleviate this threat to their existence. They drove into ever-increasing eccentricities. Some would dedicate themselves to discovery, others would disappear inside their own imagination. And then there were those who sought thrills in the wilderness beyond their civilization. The latter would not only encounter savages, but they would also find relics of forgotten cultures that disappeared within the jungles or beneath the deserts. Their curiosity drove them to rob ancient graves and dig out long-forgotten ruins. But as they explored the remains of the societies that came before, they learned about their craftsmanship, philosophy, and their religions. Archaeologists discovered imagery of people, kings, and gods and their associated rituals involving gift-giving, dances, feasts, and sacrifice. Human sacrifice. Convinced of their own moral superiority and the power of reason, these acts were ignored as nothing but the whimsy of primitive people. And as they learned about their architectural achievements and dedication to their respective faiths, it dawned on these humanists that perhaps these primitives were onto something. That maybe they were aware of forces that Western civilization forgot. Enlightened intellectuals started to dwell away from rationality, wondering that there might be more to this ever-growing universe. They started to fear that their increasing knowledge of space and time would uncover something, someone that defied human understanding. That all these superstitions contained more truth than their dogmatic faith in science could ever hope to uncover. The new fate that once filled them with a sense of superiority over these primitives now filled them with doubt and despair. With the rejection of concepts such as divinity and the sacred, what was the value of human life beyond the atoms of which it was composed? And they started to wonder, did science blind them? Did they need to look back at the darkness for the answers to the meaning of life? And if they did, would something stare back at them? Angered that these lowly mortals abandoned him for lesser and futile causes like hedonism and progress. It is these fears writers like Lovecraft would tap into, the realization that humanity means nothing in the grand scheme of things. In the end, our sun will die and will remove every trace that humanity ever existed. No matter how many colonies we found, no matter how many probes we send, no matter how many light years we travel, in the end, nothing remains. Humanity is but a fleeting moment, not even worth a mention in the annals of the universe. Just some backward species, not even capable to observe the seventh dimension, let alone understand it without straining their useless minds that are barely more advanced than the insects they share their planet with.
You think you're special. You think you'll make a difference. Think again. In the grand scheme of things, you will not leave a single impression upon the universe. You'll be lucky if people remember you after you're gone for being a good person. But let's face it, John, you'll be lucky if they don't use the ditch they buried you in as a public toilet.
This is what weird fiction, or as we know it now, cosmic horror, is all about. Forget about all those games where humanity actually stands a chance against the outer gods and their minions. These are founded on the idea that the hero can win, that we are owed a fair challenge. In cosmic horror, however, the protagonist is not even a player. In the Cthulhu mythos, as the collection of stories around Cthulhu and his extended family are called, the characters are but monkeys trying to comprehend the world around them. They attempt to make sense of the insensible, find reason and madness triumph in mankind's inevitable demise. Now, this is all well and good, but can it be meshed up with other genres? Why, yes, but there are a few caveats. For example, steampunk can always be used aesthetically. However, steampunk also enjoy power fantasies, and that is antithetical to what Lovecraft and his peers attempted to achieve. These very twisted morality lessons on human folly, and that we, as a species, are not as awesome as we think we are. So the combined brain power of all these scientists built the Hadron Collider? That's so cute! That's what this baby Yvian built when she was just 3 months old. The idea is that progress can lead to stagnation, that the desire to build a better future will only lead to our demise because we don't consider the consequences.
Now, what was one of the major themes of Gibsonian steampunk? Progress.
Humanity dealing with the forces it does not comprehend is not new to Lovecraft. It is exactly what Frankenstein's monster is about. Cosmic horror just added a new layer to it. Not only may we not be alone in the universe, but there might actually be godlike beings out there. They just don't give a crap about humanity, or worse, take pleasure in watching us suffer.
You know what cosmic horror reminds me of? Good old-fashioned fairy tales.
Yeah, we all grew up with fairy tales being colorful stories of weak, young, very often not all that bright characters overcoming wicked witches and villainous thugs. But in the original, Hansel and Gretel never emerged from that witch house again, and Little Red Riding Hood, well, she did get united with her grandmother in the wolves' poo.
Grin? Yes. But that was the point, to scare future generations in becoming responsible adults. Okay, listen, these people had really short lives, and even less time to raise their offspring, of which they had many. So yes, a little less Dr. Spock and a little bit more Peterson.
But lessons about caution and restraint for children is one thing. What can we possibly learn from a universe where the entirety of mankind is subject to the whims of ancient beings and alien races? One major theme is that of human excess. What if entire civilizations gave in to their most base urges? In a world where there is no purpose in suffering and death has no meaning, there is no value to life. Good and evil are irrelevant, so why not just have a good time? In this godless universe, the various cults and hidden civilizations are often engaged in depraved acts of cruelty and hedonism. In order to sate their curiosity, they would willingly sacrifice their fellow man in return for forbidden knowledge. But the suffering of others is but a small price to pay for one's own self-indulgence, or just to live another day. In Lovecraft's work, the protagonists often become confronted with these excesses in human behavior that are such an affront to their understanding of the world, it will often drive them insane. In much of cosmic horror, death and madness are as inevitable as taxes. When reading, you know the protagonist is something to unlock secrets he shouldn't, but you want to learn the truth.
But can we handle the truth?
What if we are but the fragment of a dream from a gibbering mad king who will devour all of the universe he once created? What is the point of progress if some being can just throw us back to the Stone Age? Why not just awaken your highness and hope he'll show more mercy to you than to the remainder of mankind?
Now, I realize we barely talked about steampunk or any particular punk genre. However, cosmic horror is not about its gods or alien beings, no. Those are but mere marketing gimmicks to slap on products and for rights to insert into their stories to make them seem more relevant. No. Cosmic horror is about being confronted by the unknown, the absence of the sacred, and the idea that we are but mere playthings to greater, unnameable beings.
To summarize, we can combine Lovecraft with steampunk, or any other genre for that matter. Aesthetically, sure, but the idea of the gadgeteer superhero or the benevolence of progress are antithetical to the themes that make cosmic horror what it is. What is horrific about a monster that can be defeated by the mere throw of the dice? The point should be that the dice are stacked against humanity.
But that would go against the age-old canard of the hero's journey we mortals are so fond of. After all, don't we like to be told there's a reason for our suffering? That we can root for a hero while he makes it to the final boss, and not to watch him piss himself while he's lurking somewhere in a deep, dark corner of his padded cell. What are your thoughts of the combination of cosmic horror with other genres? And please tell us about your favorite genre mashups in the comments.
Thank you for watching, and with that I would like to thank our patrons on Patreon and Subscribestar, Steamy Wonders and Bowler@Tom. If you want our take on steampunk and cosmic horror, go check out the stories of the Association of Ishtar by clicking the link in the description below. And don't forget to check out our audiobooks on our second channel, the Retro Future Research Foundation. If you dare.